With the NFL draft all but set, with just the Patriots and the Seahawks playing in the Super Bowl next week, we figured it'd be a good time to do a mock draft of all 32 teams. So not just Jets and Giants, not just New York, but we're going to do all 32. So Henry, take it away with probably the easiest pick in the whole draft.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we're going to go back and forth, taking turns of the picks. We feel that kind of adds the element of surprise you would typically see in a first round. So he has no idea what I'm going to do. I don't know what he's going to do, although he does know what I'm going to do with pick number 1. It's Fernando Mendoza and nobody else. The Raiders desperately need a quarterback. He's the best quarterback in the draft. I would argue the only one worth taking in the first round. Easiest pick of the draft. Now's where the fun starts.
Yeah, this is when it gets interesting. Obviously, we said in our article that the Jets should take Ruben Bain at 2, assuming that Mendoza was going 1 to the Raiders, which he almost definitely will. But there is definitely an argument for Arvell Reese and David Bailey. We were just talking about it, that Arvell Reese could be kind of the next Micah Parsons, maybe not at the level that Micah Parsons is, where he's, probably a top 2 defender in the league. Mm-hmm. But he could be that kind of style where he's coming out of the draft and, well, is he a linebacker? Is he an edge rusher? Can he do both? You kind of don't know. Where you have Bain and Bailey are more of your traditional edge rushers.
Right.
In my opinion, I really think it's between Bain and Reese here. I like Bailey a lot, but it doesn't make sense for the Jets, who were really bad against the run and already have an edge rusher in Will McDonald who's bad against the run, to get another guy who's bad against the run. So I'm going to take Ruben Bain here. Not that much of a surprise, as, like I said, we just picked him in our Jets mock draft of the first 2 rounds in our article that we just did. So, yeah, take it away with pick 3 for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like that pick for the Jets. The main concern with Ruben Bain is the short arms, but if you watch his tape, he's in the backfield like every other play. He's better than David Bailey. The Jets need massive help on the D-line. I think that's the right pick. For the Cardinals, I've seen a lot of people grab Spencer Fano in this spot. I just don't think he's a good enough tackle to take in the top 3, and especially with a team that was as bad as the Cardinals. Why take a tackle if you don't have a QB? Tackle seems like something you take when you have your franchise quarterback. The Cardinals don't. I think this is the spot for best player available. I'm going to give him Arvell Reese here. He's a guy that could play the mic. He might get turned into an edge rusher. The Cardinals have they're a bottom 3 team in the NFL. Arvell Reese has probably the most potential out of any defensive player in this draft. I think you got to go upside, best player available, and pass on the offensive tackle when you don't have a QB.
I completely agree. I think Arvell Reese is definitely the best player available at 3. If Bain is taken at 2 and Mendoza's at 1. And I think the Cardinals, they have Kyler Murray, but it seems like they're going to move on from him in the offseason. And even if they don't, I don't think that he is the franchise. I think it would either be Reese or Caleb Downs. I know taking a safety at 3 is crazy, but I think he's arguably the most talented defensive player in this draft. Mm-hmm. I think Caleb Downs. So I would have went between one of those 2, but I like the Reese pick. So we'll go to the Titans here. I think it has to be something to help Cam Ward. So I would say it's either Jeremiah Love, Jordan Tyson, or Carnell Tate. Obviously, you have your franchise guy.
Right.
I don't think Bailey and Downs, obviously, they're really good players, and they would help any team they go to. But I think if you're the Titans, you need to build around Ward. You need to give him the weapons to be the franchise guy and to show that he can do it. And so it has to be an offensive player, in my opinion.
Right.
I don't know if a running back at 4 is the right move. So I'm going to say it's between Tyson and Tate. And this is a toss-up, honestly. And I think you'll see obviously the Giants are coming up next. I think the Giants are going to get, whoever falls here, I think. I think the Titans will go receiver. And if they pick Tyson, then the Giants will go Tate, and vice versa. So Um, I really like Jordan Tyson. I've been really high on him. So I'm going to go with Jordan Tyson for the Titans.
I think that's a very interesting pick at 4. He definitely is the most upside between him and Tate and Mekhi Lemon. There are the injury concerns there, but if you can avoid those, Jordan Tyson is the best receiver in the draft, in my opinion. I think that's good value for the Titans at 4, grabbing the most talented receiver on the board. I know you said you think the Giants are going to get whoever falls at receiver. I'm not going to go in that direction. I think that O-line is Andrew Thomas and a lot of junk. To me, this is the Spencer Fano spot, especially with a young quarterback like Jackson Dart. You need help on the O-line. Cam Scatterbu already got hurt. You need to protect him better. You just need to be better, especially with those two. Young quarterback, you got to build up the O-line as much as possible. They have Malik Neighbors coming back. They could re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson. There's receivers to get in free agency. I think this is the spot to take the best tackle on the board.
Yeah, I like it. I like the pick at tackle. But I think if you're the Giants, I do agree that obviously Andrew Thomas is definitely your franchise guy at left tackle, and the O-line it's been a problem for pretty much a decade now.
Years.
Yeah, it's been too long. But I think a guy of Carnell Tate's ability, I think they got to go with a receiver there, but it has to be on the offensive side of the ball for sure.
Agreed. Yeah.
Because you have to build around Dart, and like you said, they do have Neighbors, so I guess it's not as big of a need at receiver. He's coming back. Who knows how good he will be off that ACL tear, but if all goes right for him, I think why shouldn't he continue to be an elite star receiver for Jackson Dart?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. I just think, to me, there's no point in having 2 stud receivers if you're never going to have time to throw them the ball. And if you're in a situation where even if you have one of the best tackles in the league and your O-line is still suffering, you got to go O-line in this spot. They'll be fine with weapons between Neighbors and Robinson if he comes back. Again, I think they could get someone in free agency. Alec Pierce is a guy I think they should look at, but I think tackle is a harder position to find than receiver. And I think Spencer Fano is the best choice for them.
Yeah, Fano's a great player. I think he's the best tackle. It's either him or Miami's offensive tackle. But yeah, I like the pick. It definitely has to be offense for sure.
Absolutely.
And I think the same goes for the Browns here at 6. I think it has to be offense. And I think if Carnell Tate does fall here, you got to go receiver and you got to go Carnell Tate. You got to
completely agree.
I think quarterback is obviously still a problem, but next year I think this is Shedur's year to show like, hey, I was supposed to be a first-round pick for most of the offseason, and then all of a sudden I had a bad couple of interviews, and maybe my dad's name didn't help me out so much, and I fell to the 5th round. But this is his chance to prove it. And if you're the Browns front office and if you're Todd Monken, the new head coach, Todd Monken's a terrific offensive mind. So if he's going to find his magic and find what people thought he was, that this is the year to do it. And why not give him what could be the best receiver in this draft? Like you said, Jordan Tyson probably has the most upside, but I think in terms of a floor, I think Carnell Tate's floor is probably the highest of anybody.
I would agree with that. I would agree. I like that pick for the Browns. Their offense in general was horrible, but that receiving room was rough. Jerry Jeudy was just horrific last year, and he was still the best receiver in that room. So wide receiver is an absolute must, especially with no quarterback to take in the top 6. For the Commanders here, for me, the run defense was okay enough. Pass rush was horrible. Staring me right in the face is the best pass rusher in this draft. It's got to be David Bailey here. They got to get after the quarterback. That defense is not going to get any better if you don't force quicker, tougher decisions. And David Bailey is the best pass rusher in the draft. Got to get after the QB. David Bailey's the pick.
Yeah, I like that pick. The Commanders' defense really struggled this year. They had a lot of injuries, but injuries are expected when you have the oldest team in the NFL. So they need to get younger. Obviously, that's really the only way to do that is through the draft.
Right.
And they'll get younger on the defensive line, which is huge. I think that's the right pick. Now, here with New Orleans, I'm going to stick with the defense. I think right here at 8, I think it is impossible to say no to Caleb Downs at 8 right here.
I agree. Yeah.
I don't see any way if the Saints, if the Saints have a chance to take Caleb Downs, I don't see why they wouldn't. Like I said, he could very well be the best defensive player in this draft. It's just he plays safety, and it's just not as valuable as an edge rusher or a linebacker. So that's why he may fall. But if I'm the Saints here, they have enough holes where I would go best player available and leave it at that. And I'm going to take Downs here.
Yeah, I like that pick. Caleb Downs is arguably the best player in the draft. I would almost say certainly the best defensive player as far as talent. Again, he's a box safety. It's not the most valuable defensive position on the field, and that's why we saw David Bailey, Ruben Bain, Arvell Reese go above him. But pound for pound, just absolutely terrific player. The Saints would be thrilled if Caleb Downs is available at 8. Now, in my opinion, for the Chiefs here, this is the easiest pick besides number 1. If Jeremiah Love is on the board at 9, he will be a Kansas City Chief, especially with Patrick Mahomes missing, I would assume, a good chunk at least of next season. They're going to need to be able to run the ball. They couldn't do it last year. Jeremiah Smith's a generational running back talent. I would say it's almost a given that he's going to be a Kansas City Chief.
Yeah, I 100% agree. If he's there at 9, the Chiefs would be foolish not to. He may very well be the best player in this draft. I don't even think that's
totally
crazy to say that. He could be the best player in this draft, but it's just like Caleb Downs. We said he could be the best player in this draft, and he's almost certainly the best defensive player, but positional value is a big thing, and running backs have been valued less and less as time has gone on.
Indeed.
So that's why he's going to fall to 9. If this was, 30 years ago, he probably is going 1.
Oh, absolutely.
Or 2. So, heck, if it were Dave Gettleman picking for the Giants, he'd be going to the Giants, as they took Saquon Barkley at 2 a couple seasons ago. So, it's unfortunate for him because he could be a first or second pick, but he goes 9 to the Chiefs with ease, I think.
Agreed.
So now we have the Bengals here. This one is interesting because you have Sonny Styles on the board, who is another really good linebacker out of Ohio State, just like Arvell Reese. You have Malgoa here too, who's also really good, and the Bengals always need offensive line help, especially since Joe Burrow is your quarterback and he's had some injury concerns. I think the pick here has to be offensive line, just because
I agree,
how much Joe Burrow is getting injured. It's really, really tough not to go with a linebacker, not to go with Sonny Styles here. Not necessarily that they really need that position, but just because he's just so elite, it's difficult to say no to that. But you need offensive line. You have your franchise quarterback. You have 2 franchise wide receivers. Like you said earlier with the Giants, it doesn't matter if you have 2 playmakers and a franchise quarterback. If he's getting sacked 30, 40 times a year and getting hurt because of it, there's not much you can do with it. So I'm going to go with the tackle out of Miami here.
Yeah, again, to me, that's a no-brainer. You got to protect Joe Burrow. He is such a talent at quarterback, and it would be such a shame to see him keep getting hurt because of how often he's getting hit. So you got to take the best tackle on the board, no matter who it is. I mean, if the pick is an offensive line here, it's almost like they're trying to get Joe Burrow injured at this point. So, I think that's the right pick for the Bengals. For the Dolphins here, you could go a couple different directions. I think this is tough. Tyreek Hill surely won't be the same.
Yeah, that was
Jalen Waddle. He could go receiver. Could go best defensive player available. But for me, I think corner is such a big need for them. That pass defense is Swiss cheese. I'm going to give him Mansour Delane over Jermod McCoy just because he
All right.
has been healthier. Jermod McCoy
Yes,
probably has more upside, but
absolutely.
Delane, rock solid at LSU. The Dolphins need a rock solid player, and they've had so many injuries. They can't afford to take another injury risk. So you got to go with the safe pick at corner there.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that pick a lot. I agree with you. I think McCoy has the better upside for sure. But injury concerns are definitely huge there. And I'm going to stay on the defensive side. Obviously, with Dallas, if you're the Cowboys, if you're Jerry Jones, and you even think about taking an offensive player that's not named Jeremiah Love, you're out of your mind.
Insane.
They had
That
one of the
offense is
best
so good.
They had one of the best offenses in the league once again. It doesn't matter who the head coach is, whether it was Mike McCarthy, now it's Brian Schottenheimer. The offense is still elite. The defense is a huge problem. You have Sonny Styles here, who could have been off the board a couple picks ago. He is elite, and yeah, this is a no-brainer to take Sonny Styles. You take the best defensive player available if you're Dallas, without a question.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, it's really as simple as their offense was one of the best in the league and their defense was one of the worst. Sonny Styles, as far as a pure linebacker, arguably better than Arvell Reese.
Yeah.
Obviously, Reese, the upside to him being that he could be converted into an edge rusher and is much better at rushing the quarterback than Styles. But as far as shooting the gap, stopping the run, good in coverage, Sonny Styles, do it all linebacker. Great pick for Dallas. Now, the Rams here, I think I might surprise you with this one, but Devontae Adams is getting old. And
Interesting.
outside of him and Puka Nakua, that wide receiver room really is not looking too hot.
Hmm.
And Matt Stafford not getting younger. He's getting less mobile. I know he's had an MVP caliber season, but you'd like to keep that production as long as you can by giving him as many weapons as possible. I have a feeling you were kind of hoping Mekhi Lemon made it to the Jets at 16, but I'm going
Yeah,
to
I
take him
mean,
off the board right here for the Rams. I think
wow.
they just have so few holes on that team, and you got to look for the future with that
Okay.
receiver room.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I like it. Obviously, Adams is getting up there. I was going to take Mekhi Lemon here for Baltimore. I thought it was this would have been a no brainer here for Baltimore to give Lamar more weapons. Now with
Very
him off
true.
the board, I don't love the receivers as much. Denzel Boston is good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do like Casey Concepcion. Then you also have Surratt as well or Chris
Mm-hmm.
Bell too from Louisville. He's got a lot of upside as well. I don't know if I think all those would kind of be a reach here at 14. And I think this might be another one of those where you take what you need as well. And obviously they need D line as well, along with a little offensive line help.
Absolutely.
Peter, being a Clemson student and a Clemson fan, Peter Woods
Right.
is a game wrecker in the
Oh,
red zone.
absolutely.
The run
Especially
game,
against the run.
it's in the run. In the run game. He wrecks your offense. So
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take Peter Woods. I think he is like the epitome of a Baltimore Raven, where it's smash mouth, football that they've been playing since, the Ray Lewis and Ed Reed days. So I think he is the perfect player for Jesse Minter and the new coaching staff in Baltimore. I would love to see Peter Woods go to Baltimore and flourish.
Yeah, I think that's the right pick, especially with, Mekhi Lemon just coming off the board. I think that was another guy they could have looked at. Again, like you said, could have gone for help on the O-line, but Peter Woods for sure, across all their needs, the best player available
Agreed.
based on what they need. Maybe not pound for pound left in the draft, but as far as what they need, he's the best guy they could have taken. I think that's the right pick. Buccaneers could use some help off the edge. I don't really love the edge rushers here for them in this spot. I think at tight end, Kenyon Sadiq is a really good tight end. He was so valuable for Dante Moore at Oregon as a safety blanket. I honestly think he made Dante Moore look a little better than he is. He's got, above average speed for a tight end. He's going to be a great pass catcher. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin not getting any younger and injury prone. The receivers here could be another option, but again, you're probably not reaching this high for one when you have those two still. I think Kenyon Sadiq is the pick here for them. Get the best tight end on the board. Give Baker Mayfield another weapon. I think that's the right.
Yeah, yeah, I love that pick. Kate Otten he's solid at tight end, but as you said, you get Baker Mayfield now. He's got Evans, Godwin, Egbuka, and Sadiq, along with two solid running backs with Irving and White. So I think that's a good move, especially once everyone got really injured, on the Buccaneers offense. That offense took a big step back. They started the season off hot. They were 5-1, and that offense was rolling. Mayfield looked like he could win MVP, and then everyone got hurt, and it just kind of came crashing down. So I like the Kenyon Sadiq pick. Now here are my Jets. This is interesting. Obviously, in our mock, we took Caleb Banks at 16, and I like that pick. I don't know. The thing is, the defense was obviously really bad. It was really, really bad.
Not good at all.
There's a reason they fired Steve Wilkes. But the offense was really bad, too. There's a reason they fired Tanner Engstrand. The offense was really bad.
There's a reason they have the second pick. There wasn't much to love about the Jets last week.
The only thing that is stopping me from taking a receiver here is that they have pick 34 in the second round, and this guy right here, Chris Bell, will be there, and I think Chris Bell can be really, really good. I think we said Jordan Tyson has the highest ceiling. Chris Bell is right there with him, but I think the only problem with Bell is that his floor is a lot lower than Tyson's.
He's such a raw prospect.
So
take a couple
that's
years.
The thing. He is raw, but I think I think he could be there at 34, and that's the only thing that is stopping me from going receiver here. And the Jets, they just traded away Sauce Gardner.
They did.
They need secondary help. So when we were doing our mock draft a couple weeks ago,
McCoy was off
the board. And that's why we went with Banks. I'm going to go with Jermod McCoy here to replace Sauce Gardner as the number one corner in New York for the Jets.
I completely agree. I was getting ready to passionately disagree with you if you didn't take Jermod McCoy off the board there. The Jets have so many first-round picks in the next few years. You can afford to take a risk on a player with injury concerns. Jermod McCoy was so good last year at Tennessee.
Yeah.
When healthy, you want to talk about a guy who could be the best defensive player in the draft? He is right up there. I mean, the ceiling is through the roof. Talent-wise, he's the best corner in the draft. Again, when fully healthy, if he gets back to that, he's arguably a top 5 talent in the entire draft, in my opinion. So I think if he's there for the Jets, with the amount of draft capital you have in the near future, you can afford to take the risk. And if he's there, you're taking him.
Agreed.
Now, for the Lions here, it's another interesting spot. I think you got to get help on the interior offensive line. Penei Sewell's great. So I think I'm going to give him Ioane from Penn State. I think that's the right pick.
Agreed.
Rock solid in the run, decent pass protector. Penn State offensive linemen tend to do pretty well in the NFL. The Lions, if you had to point to anything, need help on the interior offensive line the most, I think that's the right pick. They're kind of in a weird spot with who's on the board at this point, but I think based on who's there, Ioane is the pick.
Yeah, I like that pick. They had a lot of injuries on the offensive line. They were going to bring Frank Ragnow out of retirement. Yeah. And then he was doing his physical, and they found out that he couldn't play. That I think he strained a muscle or something, and he was unfit to play. So they were really desperate for offensive line help this year. So yeah, I think that is the right pick. Now the Vikings here, this is interesting. There's really no interior offensive line. As you can see, they need a center. There's
Right.
really not much in that regard here. Um, and like, listen, we're going to go back to the Clemson guys. Avion Terrell is a turnover machine. He forced 5
Ball hawk.
fumbles this year. The only problem with Terrell is that he's not big enough to be an outside corner. He's just not.
Yeah,
He's not
he'll
big
play in the
enough.
nickel for his
He'll
entire
play at
career.
the nickel for sure. But the Vikings just need secondary help in general. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go with Avion Terrell. I think he's a dog. Watching him the last 2 years has been a lot of fun. He's a fun player to watch, and I think he'd fit right in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think that's the right pick. Like you said, they need help in the secondary. He's the best secondary player left on the board for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think it's a match made in heaven for them. He's always a guy. Those nickel corners are always guys you could think about moving to safety if
Yeah.
with the speed. But a lot of things you could do with Avion Terrell. Carolina here could get another weapon for Bryce Young. And, I think that's what I'm going to do. Now, the question is, do you give him Denzel Boston or do you give him Chris Bell, as you said? That's an option as a reach for them.
Yeah, Chris Bell would be a crazy reach. I think Concepcion would be a good pick
yeah,
too.
I was going to say, I think the best pick is KC Concepcion here over Denzel Boston. He's so good with the ball in his hands. And, as a short option for Bryce Young, give him the ball, see if he can make something happen. There's a lot of ways you could get him the ball. I think that offense really opens up a lot with KC Concepcion.
Absolutely. I agree. I think Bryce Young, this is the make or break year for Bryce Young. He was good at times last year. Obviously, they were able to make the playoffs. But it was too inconsistent. As we saw this season, they didn't win back-to-back games once this year. It was win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. That's not sustainable for a franchise. And if you look at it, a lot of those games as it usually is with quarterback play, the games they lost is when Bryce Young wasn't playing very well. And so you need him to be more consistent. Getting him more weapons is always a good idea when it comes to that. So, yeah, pairing KC Concepcion with Ted McMillan, I think that's going to be a great move for Carolina. Mm-hmm. And now with Dallas, like I said, if they even think about in this first round going with an offensive player not named Jeremiah Love, they're insane.
Defense.
But we know Jerry Jones to be a little bit insane.
A little bit.
So
yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did somehow, for some reason, go offense. But I'm not Jerry Jones. I'm not senile. Sorry, Jerry Jones.
You are not.
Sorry, Jerry.
This wouldn't be a problem if they just paid Micah Parsons, but here we are.
Yeah, I was just about to say that there seems to be a hole on the edge.
Not a Micah Parsons sized hole. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like Keldrick Falk better than Cassius Howell. So
I completely agree with that.
I'm going to go with Falk. And I think that is, I was going to say the perfect replacement for Micah Parsons, but there's no real perfect replacement for him. But it does help that that defensive line. They got Quinnen Williams from the Jets. That was a great move. Now you pair him next to Keldrick Falk. I think that's a really good defensive line in the making.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, Dallas needs help on the D line. Mm-hmm. I will still never understand trading away Micah Parsons just to give a first for an interior defensive lineman.
Yeah.
But here we are with a Micah Parsons-sized hole on the edge with a team that decided they wanted to win now after trading the best player on their team. So, Keldrick Falk it is. Now, Pittsburgh here is interesting.
Yes, very.
To me, this is a receiver or tackle spot. I just don't love the options for them. I'm going to go a little off the beaten path here. You just hired Mike McCarthy. He's a terrific coach. He's a QB whisperer. I'm going to give him Ty Simpson here. I
like it.
We are going to see a second QB go in the first round. I think if Ty Simpson is a really raw prospect, he's got some accuracy issues. NFL scouts say accuracy is a lot harder to coach than you think, but Mike McCarthy has coached up two of the more accurate QBs we've seen with Dak Prescott and especially Aaron Rodgers. I think if anywhere is a good spot for Ty Simpson to go, it's Pittsburgh, especially with the Mike McCarthy hire. Although there's definitely an argument to be made for Denzel Boston, but I think Ty Simpson's the pick.
I agree. I think they're gonna go back to Rodgers. It sounds crazy, but McCarthy said he was in, and a lot of people around Rodgers and around his camp are saying that they think he's in. Obviously, him and McCarthy were together for a decade plus in Green Bay and won a Super Bowl together. So there's a relationship there. But even if you do have Rodgers next year, why not take the first round quarterback, let him sit behind arguably the most talented quarterback to ever play the game, and then maybe next year Ty Simpson will be ready. I don't think Ty Simpson is one of those quarterbacks like we'll see with Mendoza this year that can go out there and immediately start on day one. He's not one of those quarterbacks. He needs to sit. He needs maybe for a whole season. And Aaron Rodgers, we saw he had a nice year. He was good. They made the playoffs. They won 10 games. So if Rodgers can do what he did this year, if he can be somewhat of a mentor to Ty Simpson, I think it would be a really great addition for the Steelers, and you could potentially have your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. Sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, I think, would do wonders for him. And again, Mike McCarthy, we've talked about this, such an underrated coach, especially for QBs. Mike McCarthy and Ty Simpson would be a great match. I think it's arguably the best spot for him to go this year if he was going to go in the first round.
Absolutely. I agree. We had Mike McCarthy as when we did our Giants head coaching list. We had him at number 2. Mike Tomlin was 1. Now, we've obviously learned now that Tomlin's going to sit out this year. We had him above Harbaugh. I love John Harbaugh hiring. I think it's a great hire. But I like Mike McCarthy a lot too. And
absolutely,
his offenses have always been towards the top of the NFL. When he was with Dallas, Green Bay, it doesn't matter. They've always been at the top of the NFL.
And they don't turn the ball over.
And they do not turn the ball over, which is that's key.
And again, another problem with Simpson too. So again, such a good spot for him to go.
I think it's the perfect spot for him. Now with LA, this has to be offensive line. It has to be. If it's not offensive line, they have a problem. The only problem here is that they have 2 Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber tackles in Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt.
Right.
Now you have Caden Proctor here and you have Caleb Lomu. I like Proctor better than Lomu.
Agree.
And people are saying that you could potentially move Proctor inside, maybe. So I think that has to be the pick here because there really is no other guards here that would be worth the reach. You know, you have Pregnon, but I think it's just such a reach. And then you can't go defense here. It has to be offensive line. Justin Herbert is getting killed. I think you have to go with Proctor and kick him inside or kick one of the other tackles inside because that is the move in my opinion. So I'm going to go Caden Proctor.
Yeah. To me, there's only 2 things you could do. It's either which of Proctor or Lomu do you think you can move to guard more seamlessly, or you reach for a guard. Because if they don't draft an offensive lineman, that entire front office should be put up in front of the state of California court system for attempted murder of Justin Herbert. It is a miracle that he is healthy to play football next season after how often he was getting hit in the backfield. Even with Alton Slater, he was getting killed because guys were just coming up the middle untouched. So O-line is the only thing you can do here. And they just have to do it.
Yep, completely agree.
Now, Philadelphia here is interesting. I think this is the Cassius Howell spot. You get arguably the best player available. They were not getting after the QB as well as they should have been. They're great on the interior. And adding the best edge rusher available would really shore up that defensive line. The only other option I think is offensive line, but they had injuries, and I don't think that need is quite as pressing as it was at the Chargers to reach for one or worry about converting a tackle to guard. So I
Agreed.
think just keep it simple with the way the board's fallen. Cassius Howell is the right pick there.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. Um, Now with Cleveland, this is where I mean I don't think it really gets that. If Ty Simpson is still on the board,
Mm-hmm.
there could be some controversy, if you will. I don't think they'll end up taking him. I think they'll probably try to give Shadur this year.
Yeah.
You do have Denzel Boston there, but we already took Carnell Tate. So I think the obvious choice is Lomu here. Shadur Sanders
Yeah.
was getting destroyed in the backfield. Just like we said with Justin Herbert, he was getting killed. So get him a tackle. Get your franchise tackle. You just got your franchise wide receiver. Maybe you have a franchise quarterback on your hands and try to build around him this year. And if you don't, then you'll have a good build set up for your quarterback next year. It could be Manning, it could be Sayin, it could be Moore, it could be any of those guys. So build up around your quarterback now. If it doesn't work out with Sanders, you have next year with Todd Monken, who is a terrific offensive mind.
Yeah. I like that pick. You got to get no line. If you're going to roll Shadur Sanders, you got to protect him. As long as you have Myles Garrett, the defense is always going to be less of a need than it would be otherwise. And I think offensive line's the right pick there. Now, for me, the Bears, watching them in the playoffs, it's got to be an edge rusher here. I'm between TJ Parker or Akeem Mesidor. I know the thing with Mesidor is that he's a really old rookie, but he was so good at Miami. TJ Parker, a bit more of a raw prospect. Akeem Mesidor was on the other side of a terrific defense that just made the national championship. The Bears are ready to win right now. They need a player that's going to be good right now. I think Akeem Mesidor is the edge rusher you take here. Another guy that could also help in the run. And I think for the Bears, I like that fit a little more than TJ Parker.
Yeah, I like the Mesidor pick. I'm going to be honest, like for the third time, we're going to mention Clemson. I did not enjoy watching TJ Parker. I enjoyed watching Peter Woods and Avion Terrell. I don't get the hype on TJ Parker at all. At all. I can't believe he's a first round pick. I'm going to be that.
Really?
I'm going to be that brutally honest.
Wow.
There was not a single. There was one game against South Carolina, who's arguably the worst team in the SEC this year, that I said, "Oh wow, there's TJ Parker." I don't get the hype on TJ Parker, so I love that pick with Mesidor because I think Parker would be a disaster if Chicago took him. And now for Buffalo, this is the easiest pick here. You need a wide receiver.
Got to get Josh Allen a target.
You need Josh Allen to have a target. I think that is what cost Sean McDermott his job. And
I would agree.
We said that Brandon Beane probably should have been fired, not Sean McDermott, because he went into the season with Khalil Shakir as a number one option.
Yeah. Look, Khalil Shakir's a good player, but he cannot be your wide receiver one. He's a slot receiver.
Yes.
He is not your number one boundary receiver.
Absolutely.
It's just
so it has to be
enough.
Denzel Boston here. We took Casey Concepcion. What is making me kind of have some fun is taking Chris Bell, but I don't think you can take the risk when you're in a championship window like the Bills are. And I think he's kind of similar to Shakir in a way where I'd probably have him on the inside. Although he can play outside, but I think I'd maybe rather him on the inside. So I think the move here is Boston. I just think he's the most reliable of the receivers on the board here. And yeah, I think he's the obvious choice.
Yeah, I mean, this is another no-brainer. Whoever the best receiver on the board is, whoever you like the best at pick 26 is going to be a Buffalo Bill. And if they don't take a receiver, you start talking about firing the people in the front office because
Brandon Beane,
what were they looking at? I don't know why they thought they could go in with Khalil Shakir as wide receiver one and be a Super Bowl contender, and they couldn't, it turns out.
Yeah.
Now, this to me is also a wide receiver spot. Brandon Ayuk is almost certainly never going to play another game again.
Yeah, I mean, John Lynch basically said that sorry to cut you off, but John Lynch basically said in their end of season press conference that he was never going to play another snap for the Niners. So
Right. And then, Ricky Pearsall is good, although I'm not as high on him as some people are.
mm-hmm.
So it's either going to be Surratt or Chris Bell. And as you just mentioned, Chris Bell can play on the inside and the outside. Kyle Shanahan loves his versatile offensive
Oh
weapons.
yeah.
So, I know you mentioned you were hoping Chris Bell was at pick 34 for the Jets, but in this situation, he's not going to be because he seems like the perfect 49ers player.
He is, if there was a receiver that embodied the West Coast offense and embodied Kyle Shanahan, it's Chris Bell. He can be their new Debo. He can be their new Debo Samuel without a doubt. He is that versatile. He's that good. I think. I love that pick, and I think this is where it gets interesting here with Houston. Caleb Banks is still on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Do we just turn the Houston Texans into the 85 Bears and say, who needs offense? That's the only thing. That's what this is.
It's a question for sure.
It's fun to think about, like, let's just make the greatest, defense in the history of the game. But I think the smart move is to protect your quarterback and protect CJ Stroud and give him the ability to throw it up to Nico Collins. You don't need a receiver here. Yeah, it's got to be the Oregon guard, Pregnant. It just has to be. He was, as you said earlier, he was on a team that, you thought that maybe this offensive line made Dante Moore look better than he actually was. And that is certainly a possibility. And yeah, I think this is a really, really good guard. And I think this is a team that really, really needs a guard and an offensive line. So why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely one of the best guards in the draft. I think he's a lot closer to Ioane than people think. Although I'd still give the edge to Ioane. But yeah, Pregnant's a great pick. Texans are thrilled to have him fall to 28. The Rams at 29, second first-round pick. In this scenario, we gave him Makai Lemon as a weapon. Right. And this, to me, is a tackle spot. Watching the Rams-Bears game, Bears don't have a great pass rush. They were still getting after Matt Stafford. Monroe Freeling, I think it's terrific. And I think the Rams would be absolutely thrilled if he was still on the board here. There are plenty of opportunities for him to be taken, and I think this is a perfect spot for him to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rams, they definitely do need offensive line help. There's no doubt about it. And this is the perfect spot here with Freeling, and Freeling is great. So yeah,
very good.
Sean McVay would be very, very happy to have him. Mm-hmm. Once again, Caleb Banks, Caden McDonald. How are these two guys still here? What are we doing? There's a lot of there's a lot of teams that they need D-line help, but they need a lot of other things too. And I think I'd be very surprised if in a real draft these guys are still here, to be honest. But I think we've taken some shots out of left field too. Taking Simpson and taking Lemon for the Rams. So I think in a real draft, these guys, I'd be shocked if these guys are still here, and it makes me kind of want to take one of them.
Look, but someone always slides in the draft. You don't know who it's going to be, but
true. And Banks was banged up this year. He had did he break his foot? Right, he broke his foot, I believe.
Yes,
he had surgery on his foot. So that is a concern too. Injuries, just like for McCoy. Obviously, McCoy ended up going a lot earlier than Banks. With who's on the board here, I really honestly don't know what to do. I'm going to be really honest. The Broncos, they do need a running back, as you can see there. I wouldn't reach for a running back here. They can get one.
I mean, RJ Harvey
later in the draft.
I think in the transition into the running back one. I don't think it's as big of a need as people make it out to be.
Yeah.
And
then you see they need linebacker help. CJ Allen is a really, really good linebacker.
CJ Allen is terrific.
He is really good. Um, and I'm gonna go with CJ Allen. I wanted to take
Yeah, I mean,
Caleb Banks and say, "Oh my God, look, they're gonna take Banks." The Broncos don't really need any defensive line help. They get to the
they really
quarterback
don't.
better than any team. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna go with CJ Allen.
Yeah, look, I think defensive line is a position where it's hard to like take one if you don't need one because they're not
Yeah.
like the game-changing linebackers or secondary players where it's like, hey, it's not a position of need, but they're so talented.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, if they're passing, they're not as impactful as, other players could be, being on with the ability to be on the field for all three downs. So I don't think it's
Agreed.
too surprising to see good defensive linemen sliding down the board. And with the Patriots here, they need help on the defensive line, but not on the interior. Got to be an edge rusher. It's one of the only things they need. And to me, TJ Parker is not a Patriots player. So
Mm-hmm.
we're actually going to go down the board a little bit. I think Mason
Really?
Thomas is a better fit for the
Mm.
Patriots here. I think he's a little more technically sound than TJ Parker. That Oklahoma pass rush was led by him. It was great. The Patriots historically love their SEC players.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
true.
don't, I just don't think TJ Parker is the kind of guy that the Patriots would take. So we're going to go Mason Thomas.
Interesting. I think, I mean, I already said what I said about TJ Parker. So yeah, I guess everybody knows I don't like him. Not as a person. I never had a class with him, and he was an ass to me. No, it's just um, I just didn't see him that much in game. Me and my friends talk about it all the time. We're like, how is this guy going in the top 25? We don't see it.
He's a really raw talent. I think it'd be
Yeah,
unlikely for him to go to a Super Bowl contender.
yeah,
Top of the second round, when the teams that can take a risk on a raw talent come back around, I think is more likely. But if he doesn't
yeah,
go in, between 12, 17 range, I think there's a good chance he does slide down the board out of the first round.
yeah. He could. And here, I know that the Seahawks defense we just talked about with the Texans. Do I take Caleb Banks and make the Seahawks insane? Yes, I do. Caleb Banks is not falling out of the first round. It's just not going to
Too
happen.
good not to take here. The
He's
rich
too
get
good not to
richer.
take care. Literally, the rich get richer. I don't see why running back is a need there. I mean,
Kenneth Walker and
you
Zach
have
Charbonnet.
Walker and you have Charbonnet. I don't really agree with that. Offensive line, yeah, it seems at times Darnold is kind of flustered sometimes, but it's worked. Darnold has had a
Absolutely.
really solid year.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then yeah, they could use a linebacker, maybe some secondary help, but the defense is good enough. If you have a player of Caleb Banks' ability here, I don't see how you say no to that. I'm taking Caleb Banks. I honestly can't believe that he's still on the board here. And yeah, it's Caleb Banks to Seattle.
Yeah, it's a great pick for the Seahawks. I've always been of the belief if you make the Super Bowl, you can take best player available pretty much no matter who he is. And that's how some of these teams stay good for so long. These really talented players, they slide down the board and they fall into the hands of one of the teams that's already the best in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that used to always happen with New England. Just
Yeah,
being a Jets fan, it was always like, they got that guy? Are you kidding me? How did he fall? And that's what it seemed like with the Eagles the last couple of years. It's been like, wait, they got Jalen Carter. How the heck did that happen?
right.
How did he fall?
Chiefs
And
with Trent McDuffie's another one that comes to mind.
I think that could happen with Howell this year. We had in our draft that Howell was going to the Eagles. That could be one of those where it's like, wait, Howell fell 10-ish spots down to the Eagles. So there's a lot of guys, like you said, players have to fall, especially if
Mm-hmm.
if other teams reach, which a lot of teams end up doing. We've seen it. It happens numerous times in
Well,
every
I
in every
I
first round.
guarantee you the way the NFL draft goes will not be the players that are ranked 1 through 32 on Pro Football Focus in the first round. I promise
Yeah,
you.
no,
Players are going to
no,
fall down the
definitely
board.
not,
And
definitely not.
yeah, I think it was really interesting the way our draft ended up playing out. I'm happy with it. I don't think anything we did is out of the realm of possibility. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's our first round mock.
Yeah, I like
One
the
point oh.
two. I thought we, yeah, I thought we we're pretty realistic with it. Like I said, the only thing I was like that, shocked me was that Caleb Banks was still there, even McDonald too. But as a Jets fan, that would be kind of sweet if McDonald was still there. Although in our draft we would have needed a receiver. But yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun, and like you said, it's 1.1. We'll definitely do this again.
Absolutely.
All right, so stay tuned for more videos, articles on our website, bigappleblabmouths.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.